Today's lesson is Module 2, Lesson 18, Least Common Multiple and Greatest Common Factor, Part 2. And in today's lesson, we're going to talk about prime factorization. And in prime factorization, what we do is we take two numbers and we break them all the way down to their prime factors. And using this method, you can find both the LCM and the GCF. So I'm going to just show you some examples. So for example, if I wanted to find the LCM and the GCF of 28 and 42, and this is a nice way where you can do it with big numbers too. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to think of two numbers that I can multiply together to get 28. The first two numbers that come in my head are 2 times 14. I know 2 is prime, so I just go ahead and circle that number. 14 I know has two factors of 2 times 7. 2 is prime and 7 is prime, so now I'm finished. I like to circle my prime numbers so that way I remember that I'm done with that set of factors. For 42, I know that 7 times 6 equals 42 and 7 is prime. And I can split 6 into 2 times 3. And remember, we're looking at factors, so we're looking at numbers when we multiply them together. So now I have all of my factors all the way down to prime numbers. And to find the greatest common factor, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look for numbers that match. So I always start in my top row, and I see I have a 2 here and I have a 2 here. So I'm looking for numbers that match in each set of factors. So I cross off this 2 and cross off this 2, and then I write it down here. And because I'm always going to be multiplying, I write my multiplication symbol. Then I come over here and I see my next number is 2, and I look over here and I don't have any 2s. So I'm not going to use that one. My next number is 7. I see I have a 7 here and here, so I cross them both off and I write them here. And then I have a 3 by itself over here, but it doesn't have a number that matches here, so I'm finished. So my greatest common factor of 28 and 42 is 14. Now, I will use this same information and what I have left to find the LCM. To find the LCM, I start with my greatest common factor and I write it down, put in my multiplication symbol. Then I'm going to use any factors that I have left over. So 2, put in my multiplication symbol, and 3. Now when I multiply all these together, I will get my least common multiple. So 14 times 2 is 28, and then 28 times 3. 28 times 3 is 84. So my LCM is 84 and my greatest common factor was 14. We're going to do one more together. And this time I'm going to do 18 and 24. So again, I'm going to write down two numbers when I multiply them together that I would get 18, and 2 is prime. 9 I can split into 3 times 3, and 3 is prime, so I'm finished with that. Then I go over to my 24 and I'll do 2 times 12. 2 is prime. I can split my 12 into 3 times 4. My 3 is prime, but my 4 keeps going, so 2 times 2. Remember, to find my GCF, I'm going to look for factors that are the same. So I start here. I have a 2 here and a 2 here, so I write that down in my multiplication symbol. I have a 3 here and a 3 here, so I write that down. I have a 3 left, but there's no 3 over here, so that tells me that I'm finished. So 2 times 3 is 6. So my greatest common factor for 18 and 24 is 6. And then for my LCM, I start off with whatever my greatest common factor was, which was 6. And then I use whatever factors are left. So 3, and then 2, and then 2. When I multiply those together, I'm going to actually work backwards. So 2 times 2 is 4. And 4 times 3 is 12. Now I'm just doing this just for the sake of it's easier for me to multiply 6 times 12. And 6 times 12 is 72. So my least common multiple for 24 and 18 is 72. If you need to, you can pause this video and rewind it and watch that again so that it makes sense to you. I want you to go ahead and go to your student book, and I'm going to show you how we will apply that in our work. So today you're going to choose 2 of these problems to look at. I am going to do yourself with a partner or on your own, it doesn't matter. I'm actually going to look at 30 and 45, so I'm going to zoom in as good as I can. So they used prime factorization just like I did. You can see here where they broke down the 30 as 2 times 15, and then they split the 15 into 3 times 5. And then they did 45 and they split it as 3 times 15, and then again they split the 15 as 3 times 5. And then here you can see factors that only belong to 30, factors that only belong to 45, and then the factors that they share. So that's just what I did. So to get the GCF, remember we multiply those 2 numbers that are the same. So if I look here, I would be crossing out this 3 and this 3 and writing it down, and this 5 and this 5 and writing it down. And 3 times 5 is 15. So the GCF would be 15. Sorry, I forgot that I had zoomed in and you wouldn't be able to see that work. Then for the LCM, I'm going to use my 15 and then the 2 numbers that are left over, which is my 2 and my 3. And 15 times 2 is 30. And then 30 times 3 is 90. So my LCM is 90. I want you to choose 2 other problems to do on your own. It doesn't matter to me which one of those you choose. And then I want you to go on to the next page, and I want you to choose either A, B, C, or D to do on your own. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go back to our notebook, and we are going to look at using distributive property. So distributive property. So this time we are going to be using factors to apply it to the distributive property. So for example, if I wanted to look at the numbers 12 plus 18, what I'm going to do is I'm going to think of a factor that is in both 12 and 18. The first thing that comes to my mind is 6. So I know that to get 12, I do 6 times 2. And then I still have my plus sign. And then to get 18, I didn't mean to draw that line. To get 18, I do 6 times 3. The number that is included in both of these that's common is the 6. So I'm going to write it on its own. Then in parentheses, I'm going to keep my 2 and keep my 3, 2, and 3. And I'm going to add that plus sign in here. And then I'm going to do 2 plus 3, which gives me 5, times 6. Remember, parentheses means to multiply, so 6 times 5 is 30. So we are going to be applying that in your student work. So if you take out your student book again, you'll notice that I did that number 1 for you in the notes. You are going to do you're going to choose 2 out of 2, 3, 4, or 5 to apply this distributive property to. And then you can actually skip the next set. So you will have a total of 5 problems to do today. After you're finished, you can come back to the video and check. I'm going to have the answers ready for you. I'm not going to show the work, just the answer. So it's going to be very important that you actually work out the problems and come up with the answer. So go ahead and pause your video, do your work, and then you can come back and check your answers. Okay, the answers for station 3 for the first set, the GCF is 10, the LCM is 150. We did the second set together, so the next set, the GCF is 15, the LCM is 180. The next set, this one here, the GCF is 14, the LCM is 210. And for the last set, the GCF is 48, and the LCM is 288. On to the next page. If you chose A, you can have any answer really, but you just need to be able to explain it mathematically. For B, you can choose just 2 random numbers and find the GCF of those numbers. For C, it says it's the product of your LCM and GCF less than or greater than or equal to the product of your numbers. Again, you would have to use whatever numbers you had here in B, so I can't put down answers for that because I'm not sure what numbers you'll choose, but I can check it for you if you'd like. For Glenn's, it says Glenn's favorite number is very special because it reminds him of the day his daughter Sarah was born. The factors in this number do not repeat. All the prime numbers are less than 12. What is Glenn's number? So all the prime numbers less than 12 are 2, 3, 5, 7, and 11. When you multiply those together, you get 2,310. And when I divide that up so I can write an actual birth date, it becomes 2, 3 of 10, which is like February 3rd, 2010. On the bottom, I will just let you take time to look that over. I'm not going to explain every single answer, so you can pause the video if you'd like to check your answer. Remember, you should have picked 2 of those to complete, and then you could skip the next 2. So if you are finished with this, then you can go on to do some more practice of greatest common factor and least common multiple on your own. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know.